There's a new sheriff in Springfield and new House rules. And why these changes to House rules matter, let's find out. Let's go to Amy Korte. She's the Vice President of Policy at the Nonpartisan Illinois Policy Institute, who joins us this morning on the Turk Furniture studio line. Amy, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
I thought the quote of the day was, "Keep us in the dark and feed us manure." That was from State Representative Mark Madigan out of the Plainfield, Shorewood, Joliet area, who we talk to frequently here on WJOL radio. So I guess let's hit that first. Are the Republicans in the dark, and are they still being fed manure after yesterday?
Oh, I think they're very disappointed that the rules didn't go farther to improve transparency and accountability in Springfield. I would say the rule changes are a start, but much more needs to be done. So, I think that this is just beginning of the reforms that are really needed to make Springfield more transparent so that everyone is not in the dark, and to make sure that our leaders are accountable.
Well, let's talk about the positives, first of all. What did you see from the new rules from yesterday that make you say, nice job, this is a start in the right direction?
Yeah, so these are the House procedural rules that govern how the House does business. And one important change, which is sort of marking the dawn of a new era, we hope, is that now there will be term limits for the positions of Speaker and Minority Leader. Now, the Republicans, I believe, had their own inter-party term limits, but this is imposing term limits on those two leadership positions, and that would be a 10-year term. And that would prevent somebody like the former Speaker, Mike Madigan, who served as the Speaker for about 36 years. You wouldn't have someone occupying that position for decades and decades anymore.
Okay. What about these committee meetings during the first year of the session? That means bills used to be able to get stuck or killed in a rules committee. Where are we at with these substantive committee meetings?
Yeah, so the one other fairly meaningful change, it makes it better than it was, is that the Rules Committee used to be known as a graveyard for bills. The Speaker appoints the chair and the members of Rules Committee, the majority members. The Minority Leader appoints the minority members. But the Speaker could appoint an ally to chair the Rules Committee, and all bills automatically go there once they're filed. And, if the chair was an ally of the Speaker, he could, kind of just quash bills that the Speaker didn't like and make sure that they never saw the light of day. They were never moved to a substantive committee, for example, like the Agriculture Committee, and they would just die a quiet death in rules. Well, now the Rules Committee must assign those bills to substantive committees in the first year of session. So in a number of years, any bill that gets sent to Rules because it's filed, automatically Rules Committee must sign that out to a substantive committee. It used to be really, really hard, a very high hurdle to get a bill just out of Rules Committee and to get it to a substantive committee. And now that hurdle is gone. Now, the Republicans have counted, well, they can still die in actual committees. The chair of the committee decides whether there's a hearing. And that's true, but there are procedural methods you can use to get a bill out of a substantive committee if you have a majority of the chamber on your side. That is a high hurdle when you're a super minority, as the Republicans are right now. But that rule hasn't gotten harder, and the Rules Committee is now compelled to assign bills to substantive committees. So that is an improvement.
Yeah, absolutely is, no doubt about it. We're talking to Amy Korte. She is with the Illinois Policy Institute. What is still missing from these rules?
Yeah, like I said, this is definitely just a start. More reform needs to be enacted. And so with respect to Representative Batnick's comment that they're still in the dark, one change that is really needed is the setting of the agenda in advance. That sounds like a very minor scheduling issue. It's not. I think that all representatives need to know what is on the agenda, what do they need to be prepared to debate on and vote for. Right now, the Speaker can change it at any time, really, for any reason. So that needs to be set in advance so lawmakers have time to prepare and know ahead of time what to be, ready to vote on. And then another transparency aspect is that right now you can have what's called a shell bill, and it might just be a really crazily insignificant change that you are making as an amendment to that bill, like replacing the with the. It's just a maneuver that you can make legislatively. Well, you can read that bill on two separate days, two times, as the Illinois Constitution requires, and then the third time you can introduce an amendment that's 1,500 pages long. Wow. And representatives have to scramble to vote on that amendment, to get ready to dissect it, to figure out what's in it, if it's good for their constituents. This was done for the 2020 budget. The shell bill was one line long. And at the very 11th hour, it was replaced with a bill that was 1,580 pages. And that was the budget. And that was done at the 11th hour, with almost no time to really figure out what's in it. So that is one rule that really needs to change. Bills should be read in their final form on 3 separate days so that representatives have some runway to figure out what's in them.
Oh, it's kind of like the crime reform bill this year. The Senate got it at 3 o'clock in the morning. They were voting at 4:50.
Right. That is not a good way to make legislation at all.
So that hasn't been changed. That still exists.
That still exists.
Okay. All right. So baby steps, I guess, right? However, it's worth noting that Mike Madigan is still the head of the Democrat Party, which means he still holds the financial power of the party, which means, Amy, for a lay like myself here, it still means he controls the strings, right?
Yeah, I don't know how long that's going to last either. Prominent statewide Democrats have called for him to step down as the chair of the Democratic Party. So we'll see where that goes. I think the Madigan era may be drawing to a close, and we'll have to watch and see who holds the purse strings in the future.
Well, let me ask you one more quick question. And I mean, this is no disrespect to anyone that Mike Madigan has supported in the past, but we all know Madigan's strategy of plucking people and picking them and backing them and making them walk door to door. That way they are under his umbrella. He supported him. I get it. That's a smart way to run Springfield the way that he's done. And you know the strategy that I'm talking about. They can't have another job. They have to walk the districts even during non-election years. And he supports them. And if something happens and that person doesn't, then he run primary against him. Does this mean now that those people maybe aren't as, I hate to use the word beholden, but I will, beholden to him as they once were?
Yeah, I think, with Madigan out of the speaker's chair, his influence and his power in Springfield are very diminished. And obviously, with all the headlines that have involved former Speaker Madigan, I think a lot of people are keeping him more at arm's length now. Okay. So those patronage armies that you referred to, I don't think that is going to have the same influence as it did in the past.